Don't try to sneak into your room like that. I know what you've got behind your back. Records. More new records.
We are here in Chino, California? Chino? Chino. Chino. Is this where the pants are named after? Chinos?
This town is named after those Chinese
This is
laborers.
Ivana Manley. Say hello.
Hello, world.
She is the captain of the ship, and we are at Manley Laboratories, and we're going to go inside and do a factory tour here and show you a really cool place. I haven't been here in 20 years? About 20 years, yeah. Let's go see what's happened in 20 years.
Come on.
Okay. Okay, so here we are.
Beautiful and bovine Chino,
Tubes rule.
California.
Tubes rule.
They sure do.
And as you can tell, it's just before Christmas.
It's the
And all through the factory, not a creature was stirring, not even a word that rhymes with factory. Here, these are your awards.
There's some of them, yeah. We've gotten some.
Wow, look at, there's a lot of
some
awards.
awards. There's my this one, the Founders Award.
Yeah, I got one of those.
You got one of those.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've won a few awards over the years.
Great.
Tech awards.
a lot of awards. Award-winning company.
Oh my God.
She's got a wall of awards. I've got one award.
Let's go get into the meat of the
Yeah, let's get to them,
production.
and then we'll take pictures later of stuff on the walls. The walls are. All right, so this is your main room. Would you call this?
It's our main production floor here, where people are assembling units. But to see how a product's built, I think we should start in the machine shop.
Yes, let's do that.
So let's check it out.
And who said they don't manufacture in America? You manufacture in America.
We build our muscles here in America.
This is great. Does everybody use this?
They do.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's smart. Wow, you get the full load here.
What happened was, way back in the olden days, there was a machine shop next door to us at the old place, and that guy didn't pay his tax bill or something. So David Manley bought the machine shop by buying the tax bill.
Oh,
And then in 1993, when we split from BTL, and David bought this building, we moved the machine shop over here. And at the time, there was a CNC, a big, $100,000
Right.
mill. We since sold that to another shop down the street, and they continue to make all of our products on our old machine. So, but having the capability of the machine shop in-house, like when I designed this faceplate, I knew what our machines were capable of, and I knew I could start exploiting, more advanced machining techniques to get the thing to look even better than it did. So this product here I did in 1997, it was. And
what is that?
this is a Voxbox, sorry, it's a Manley Voxbox. It's a professional recording, high-end vocal chain.
Oh, that's what my friend Nick bought from you.
Yeah.
And he used
It's
to
a
do it all the
mic
time.
compressor, EQ, and de-esser. So if you plug a microphone in, you get audio out ready to go to your recording device.
Cool.
But the point is that all of these things are made in Chino, not China.
Right.
And even though we don't machine the faceplate in this building anymore, it's down the street, we still do all the finishing here. So the line graining and polishing of the edges, we do that because everyone's really fussy
Yeah.
for fit and finish, and then we're going to send it down the street to anodize after it's been polished up.
Interesting that people-
Here's some Manley Chinook faceplates. They're pretty simple, but they're still thick.
So are the buyers. They're still playing records. What's the matter with them?
A bunch of
It's a digital
Neanderthal
world. I know.
technology here.
So this product must be doing well now because it's a good product. It's well priced. It's much of the steelhead, if not really all of the steelhead, but not with the versatility. But so most people don't need to have one.
It's probably 95% the sound of steelhead.
Yeah.
In a really slimmed down, easy to build package. That's why we could offer it at such a good price.
Yeah, great. The vinyl resurrection's been good for you.
Oh yeah. Kevin Deal at Upscale Audio has been selling a ton of Chinooks. He's
Cool.
really been backing us on that.
Cool.
And here we got some old Bridgeports, and if we have some modifications we need to do, or some repetitive tapping things, and then this machine stays set up over here to cut some slots in the back of our Pro Audio faceplates, the way that chassis is designed. And then at the end over there is a line grading machine where all the brush finish is put on. We don't really prototype here anymore on manually, because these days you draft a file in AutoCAD and send it to the machinist, and they can capture it and translate that drawing into machine code so much more efficiently
Right.
than old days.
It's a
So
whole new world.
yeah, this is a sandblaster George is operating here,
Yep.
and you can see he's doing the new Manley Absolute headphone amplifier side panels. So he's putting his protective gloves on in the cabinet. He's pressing the air screen to fire off very fine sand particles into the metal, which gives it a kind of matte finish.
Right.
So there's all kinds of different finishes one can apply to metalwork. You can polish something, like get a real high polish. You can line grain to put a sandpaper grain finish on it, and then this is an example of sandblasting.
And how long has this headphone amplifier been in production now?
Just since September 2018.
Oh, and how has
just a
it been
couple months.
received?
Oh, great. We've sold out the first production run,
Really?
and we've gotten some rave reviews going so far, and we're just starting that whole ball rolling, so expect to see more and more.
That's great.
Oh, hell yeah. Everyone who's heard it is like, oh my God, this thing sounds so good. And
Yeah, I know.
that's the whole point.
How much does the state EPA get involved in what you do?
They don't. We're under that radar.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's certain agencies that come by, like the fire people for sprinklers and safety and stuff like that.
So we're finished in the machine shop.
Saulo has been working with me for all of 30 years. His 30th year begins, I think, March or April 2019.
He started when he was 5 years old. I think.
No, I started when I was 5.
That's right.
So
Now,
we started-
what is this product right here we're looking at?
That's the mixer power supply.
Oh,
We're building a couple out.
I was going to say that.
It's a little taller than the steelhead,
Yeah, yeah.
but a similar concept. My apologies.
So how much do you keep?
Steelhead too.
Oh yeah, we'll go over there and take a quick look at that. So where are the boards stuffed?
Some of the low production manually stuffed boards we still do here, but most of them are machine insert populated
Right.
or surface mount, and those are not done here. We don't have any automatic big
Right.
machines like
But
that.
It's fine. People that's what
Other
they do.
people do it,
Right,
and they do a
exactly.
better
Of
job
course.
than we do. So. Yeah, that
Is
they
this
make
your
out of
supply
our-
of tubes?
That's one of our secret stashes.
And there's the funny old Sovtape. So that's the tubes when you want to listen to comedy albums. You put those in?
Exactly.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah, there's some crazy
A lot of
Russian,
old stock up
Russian
there.
weird tubes up there, and yeah, there's some other tubes up at the top, way over in the corner. You can see.
And so what are these boards
These
for?
are the input-output boards, the back panel boards for the Manley Vox box.
Ah,
And as you see, we made all these transformers. All the inputs and outputs are transformer coupled, and they're all made upstairs in our transformer
which we'll go
department.
see that later.
Yes. We're home. Here's
Yeah.
Saulo bolting together a hi-fi preamplifier, and it starts with actual people, actual Americans bolting together. You gotta, hands have to get on it.
Yeah.
Robots don't do this. So if Saulo forgets to tighten the washer, just forgive him, because
Of course, he's old.
humans can make mistakes.
You know-
These jacks, actually, now that we're staring at them, this RCA jack is a pretty cool jack. I'm a big fan of it. Why? Because it's a Teflon, it's a brass body, gold-plated with Teflon inserts. And then the way that we implement these on the PC board, it really locks together the hot contact in the ground so that when you insert an RCA, a fat plug, you're not spinning off a wire inside.
Right.
So here's some boards right here.
Oh yeah, let's look.
So see
those
how
are
we do
beautiful.
those? Like the part is really anchored to the board by the
Right.
ground shell here. And then the hot pin is also soldered extensively. So when you're plugging your jacks in and out of this, you're never going to melt, or even if you're working with it, it's Teflon, you're not going to melt that,
Right.
and you're not going to spin anything loose. This really solved a lot of
Yeah,
problems.
it's really nicely made.
It's a really nice
The
design,
little
actually.
details that people really don't appreciate until you take it apart and show it to them.
Yeah.
Like that.
You know, David Manley did design this jack. But I really love this jack, and we've used,
And
hundreds of thousands
those
of them
are
over
made
decades.
for you.
They are. We used to make these locally, and then we eventually, about 5 or 6 years ago, switched to a Chinese supplier.
Uh-huh.
And they're being made pretty much. Sometimes the plating's kind of weird. You know, we've had to work with them, but
Yeah.
they're a million times cheaper. And
Less expensive, you said.
yeah,
Not
that was
cheap.
it.
We don't
I
say
like
cheap,
to
but-
make stuff locally when we can, but
Yes.
sometimes like the savings is more than you
That
can
pressure
resist.
is on everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Unless all the audiophiles would just love to pay a lot more money.
They don't.
They don't. So we have to be reasonable when we
Yes.
can.
And what is this board? Obviously,
That's
giant
the-
caps. It's some hi-fi
see,
piece.
this whole cart here is for a run. Saolo's going to assemble a run of 10 of these Manly Jumbo Shrimp preamplifiers.
Ah.
So all the parts have been kitted. They got rolled over here. They're all in this cart, and it's Saolo's job to bolt this guy together. So these are the boards, and they've all been pre-wired with their wire limbs. We'll see how the wire prep's done over there.
With their giant capacitors.
Oh hell, these caps are freaking awesome sounding, and I did a capacitor shootout at Jackson Brown Studio in the early 90s. I went down there with a bag of capacitors
Yep.
specifically for this White Follower output stage, and I listened to all kinds of caps, and I picked the multi-cap as being the best sounding one at the time, and we still are riding with that choice today. But yeah,
There you go.
it's a really nice product. There's some beautiful parts in here, a lot of multi-caps.
Now, how do you get that into an iPhone?
Exactly. No, I know. Capacitor, like surface mount capacitors have been, those are not reliable for us. Like they with improper handling, they can
Yeah.
pop easily. And sometimes we've tried to change things over to surface mount, but the capacitors are one component a film cap
Yeah.
that we usually hold back and still just manually populate with a through hole.
What
part.
happens on a surface mount board if the capacitor goes? How do you replace? Can you replace the cap?
Lots of glasses and more lenses. Absolutely,
Yeah.
you can work with it. It's just I can even work with it, but I have to have like another set of magnifying glasses. And
Right.
once you've magnified it enough so you can see it, you can work with it. It takes a little training because when you move the soldering iron in, it's like, oh my God, Godzilla's in here!
It's like-
ah, it
like
looks
using
so big.
It's like using a microscope for
Yeah,
a
and there's special tools that you use for SMD rework, but you know, we don't really need to rework too many SMD boards these days.
That's good.
Reliability of that stuff's been excellent.
So let's move on. He's already put together 6 of these while we watched. Still on the first one.
So that's Saolo's our longest employee.
How long are you? 6 feet what? Oh, longest employed. Okay. I'm sorry.
Let's make a beeline to the engraving machine.
Yes.
All right.
Wow,
Over
look
here,
at this.
This is some ancient technology that's fairly nostalgic.
This is Radio Shack, isn't it?
Oh no, that's an Apple II.
That's probably worth as much as
As
a lot.
As a Manly Steelhead. It's an Apple II that I pulled off the cover and looked at the motherboard. Was built in Singapore in like 1981,
Wow.
and there's no hard drive, and everything is stored. Each job for the mechanical engraving. That's what we're looking at here, guys. Is a mechanical engraving
my God.
station. That I program each unit onto these floppy
Floppy.
disks. There's no hard drive, and the Y2K problem.
How
did not
old
affect
school.
this.
And so why are these VoxBox?
Well, we used to do everything with the manual engraving. These are just to kind of set up the program. This one, as you can see, has been engraved a few times.
Yes.
So what you do,
Interesting. See, I find this kind of thing interesting. I hope people at home find this as interesting as I find it.
on just a few of the products where we want the engraving to really pop out of the faceplate,
Yeah.
we'll still use the manual engraver. So what you do is, well, this cap's on there, but you put the faceplate in here. Usually there's a sticky thing, it sticks down. There's a cutting tool in here that looks like this.
Right.
Here's a cutting tool. And you spin that in there. This solenoid here is going to move the cutter up and down. The bed's going to travel on the y-axis
Right.
with the lead screw that's underneath here, and this is the x-axis lead screw here. And the very primitive programming on the Apple II, it's a custom software for this thing. You send the program over here and hit go, and this cutter will spin with this wheel right here, and it will engrave your thing. But because it's mechanical and you have a lot of variations in the altitude of the faceplate, or just it's analog, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of babysitting that you need to, when you're running a whole bunch of panels. You have to kind of sit here and manually adjust the cutter head
As it goes?
as it goes.
Oh, my goodness.
And like this Delrin part under here is wearing off, so you have to keep adjusting it down again, and there's a lot of babysitting to do. So it's quite labor intensive to run things this
But
way.
you're sticking with it because it's vintage.
I love the look of it because
Yeah.
it's cutting through the anodize into the aluminum faceplate, and you get that real bright shining metal.
Yep.
As opposed to, you can see the contrast, this was laser engraved right here.
Oh, yeah,
And it's
wow.
burning the anodize a white color.
Right.
And we have another film that can burn it a black color, but it's a different look for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interestingly, this Manly logo does not exist as a computer font. It only exists as this very specialized Roman double-line engraved font that lives with engraving machines.
Interesting.
And there's no exact modern computer-based font that is the Manly logo, which adds to its distinctiveness.
Distinctiveness. Now, what happens if something goes wrong with this computer? Can you get it fixed?
Yeah, like we bought a new hard drive before. You do disk copy,
Yeah.
did make a backup set of disks.
I like that. So you go to eBay and you can get
But
anything.
this baby's been here since 1994, I think.
Wow.
Working every day.
Working every day.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, what's next?
So next would be the laser engraver, which is fun. It works like a modern power switch. That's the brake bell. This works like a modern. It works off of any modern software. Ooh, the name's Sorry, the laser engraver itself is like a giant USB printer.
Right.
So anything we can lay out in any kind of modern software, or you could lay something out in Word if you wanted to.
Right.
You just send it here and it will basically print.
What is,
With the laser.
what is a reference channel strip?
It's a recording channel like the VoxBox. This is a baby VoxBox basically. So you see Manny's putting in
And is this
Some
for,
weight
this is for
based
vocal processing?
this
Or-
one here, the Manly Core.
Yeah, or is it for...
Vocals or anything. There's an instrument input on it as well. You can run your guitars or bass through, or any. They're nicknamed vocal channels, but they're for any. It's
Now,
not.
push go and it'll go.
All right, push go.
And do we see action happening?
Oh
Oh,
my
wow, look at
God.
that. Oh,
Sparky.
see, it's printing,
It's gonna look like
it's
that.
going to look like that. And it's going to make 5 of them. Is it break for lunch? Oh, okay, we should probably keep moving. It's hard to see what it's really doing. But
Yeah, it's got to concentrate.
yeah, I know. We know it's...
You don't want to distract it.
No, we don't. It's a great piece. How has it changed over the years?
Just the remote control was added, the RF remote.
Oh.
We engineered that in. So we're using a motorized pot,
Oh, that's nice.
and it's an RF remote system, so you don't have to point at it. It just works like over your whole house. Which is really good. So,
Somehow this looks different than the one that I
well, you got one of the first ones.
First ones, yeah.
you
This
know.
looks like you've upgraded the...
It's cleaned up.
The build
There's
quality,
always
yes.
going to be a little refinement in the assembly over the years.
Yeah, no, I
this
can
has
see
been
it.
in production since 2000 or something.
Yeah.
I think. So 18 years so far.
Yeah.
So, but there's a beauty in the consistency of the product as well.
Yeah.
So
Maybe I should revisit it. Just give it another listen.
just hang on later in the tour. I got some things to show you.
Okay.
It's still the classic, and I think you told me you spent $30,000 to better this unit.
Something like
Yeah.
something like that.
So I'm proud that this was your reference for a long time.
For years. Yeah. It's great.
It made a big difference to us in this product sales over the years too.
I know Bob Liebig likes it.
Oh hell yeah!
Can't go wrong with
He
that.
bought number 1.
Wow.
Yeah. Those are all build copies.
That's what I was thinking.
They're ugly on purpose, so I don't just sell one off in an emergency.
Right.
You know, they're ugly so they stay in the building on purpose. But even though they're ugly, they're a physical reference where you can see, oh yeah, that red wire goes from here to here.
Right.
You know, it's just a,
You need to know that the red wire goes from
you
here to
know,
here. Otherwise,
you don't want to get it mixed up with the green wire. This is a prototype, even though you can't tell. It's a prototype testing the switching power supply that we've been using the last 4 or 5 years that Bruno Puzzi's designed for us. Sorry, it's a switching power supply working at 125 kilohertz that will supply 300 volts rail for the tubes, the heater voltage, 150 volts for MOSFETs and certain other circuits, plus or minus 15 rails, and everything we need to power these boxes. And
Wow. And so
it's a supreme power supply design. So we're now working this back into the older legacy products.
So what I'm saying is, if that was an old school kind of power supply, it would be a big thing, right?
Correct. The Massive Passive, as designed in the late 90s, had a linear power supply and a really giant transformer hanging off the back
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
and a complicated power switch, so we could keep all the hummy 60 hertz main stuff to
Yep.
the back of the chassis, especially with this unit with all the inductors. So the power switch is always a point of failure where the shaft coupler comes apart or gets hit or whatever. So there's so many benefits to this power supply, least of which will be the turn-on circuit, which will just push the volt, a 5-volt line will turn on the power supply in the new product. So again, we keep all the noisy stuff way away from the sensitive audio, and you can turn it on low voltage on the faceplate and stop using all the complicated coupler
And
shafts.
this product is an equalizer.
Yeah, this is a stereo equalizer. We've been making since the late 1990s. It's called the Massive Passive. It's its own thing. They're passive bands, and then you re-amplify with the vacuum tubes, and it's a very successful product. And it was really the first new tube passive EQ, you know, in 25 years, 30 years. It set its own standard.
Cool.
We've seen a bunch of these sell into hi-fi worlds too. If people want control and want to muck
the
around,
real maniacs want to control everything, and then they
Yeah.
usually make it bad.
it's fine. This is it's a beautiful sounding unit, and there you go.
There's a whole bunch of steelheads.
Still had swinging free there.
I mean, a spy inside this factory told me that these were hidden away someplace, but since I showed up, they brought them all out.
Exactly. These are boxes getting built. So those boards they're going to start getting assembled into the chassis. Here's all the faceplates for those boxes sub-assembled here. You can see.
So,
Here's some engraved inserts that were done on the laser graving.
what's the timing involved in putting together a product like a steelhead from beginning to end, actually building one?
Good question. We've studied that, and let me find one of those
Because
production
that
sheets.
affects
We've
cost.
studied it. You know what? Over the years, you roll over a task to one of these guys and have them log in all their time, and then we know, okay, it takes like an hour to physically bolt that thing together.
Yeah.
And then we know like how long it takes for her to kit this set of wires kits. So you just time everybody, and then we built that into our production scheduling and all that, and that's how we schedule who's going to build what that day. That build plan is set in the beginning of the year,
Wow.
and then we've got a build plan for the whole year. So for instance, I'll give you an idea of how we've become more efficient in our more mature years. Here's a steelhead wire kit right there. So those are all the wires that she's going to need to build the steelhead. And then if we compare that to a Chinook, if I can find it, there it is.
Let's hold them up so we can get a
Yeah,
better view.
so this is how we've gotten better at our
Turn it that way.
at our
No,
production.
that's upside down. Let's turn it the other way.
It is. This is how we've improved production over the years with better design and better efficiency in eliminating, wire where we don't need it. So one thing that helps us do that is to have all the inputs and outputs on printed circuit boards, and not having to hand wire them, individual jacks
Right.
all up. So you can see.
So all of these have to be handmade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that particular cable, we used to use a cable from Synergistic that had a really low capacitance per foot measurement, and I was fighting some capacitance in some of the higher impedance circuit where you lose some top end.
Yeah.
And one particular unit, a mic pre, one channel had a long, 12 inches of wire, and the other channel only had 2 inches of wire. And we had to sneak a little capacitor in the feedback circuit of the other channel to boost up the high frequency again
Wow.
that we were losing on the cable.
Yeah.
So
The cables don't make any difference. They,
I can measure it. In this particular case, I was fighting capacitance.
Yeah.
And so I pulled a bunch of our buddies, like, what's the lowest, 2-core shielded so-and-so wire that you have? And you'd be surprised, like, how many cable guys, like, couldn't even answer the question.
Oops.
It's like, how many watts does that power amp have? Of course you know what the answer is
Exactly.
if you know what you're doing.
Right.
I guess.
That's a big if.
But anyway,
That's the
funny
big if.
enough, Ted Denny sent me a cable, and it measured the lowest of anything I had.
Wow.
So we started using it, and then they stopped making that
Oh.
cable, and then we had it respec'd and made again. So that's what. It's a silver 2-core with a braid and a foil shield and a drain, and it's a good sounding cable, super low capacitance. And I just want to get that message out that it's not just like picking tubes or picking capacitors. It's the wire. It's
Yeah.
all the materials that are in the sonic path that make a difference.
That's interesting.
So, but yeah, why does the Chinook cost a quarter of the Steelhead? Well,
Yeah.
it costs us a quarter to build it, and it's
Yeah.
not because there's junky parts in it. It's because we've been more efficient with the design
Yeah.
and designed it that way. It's awesome.
Okay.
That illustrates that. This is a wire prep
I
machine.
mean, this is
here.
what all of this is so beautiful. This is a skill set that you have to learn and be
Oh,
patient
yeah.
with, and this-
Even the crimping machine there, that Molex crimper, saves a lot of time. And the factory people from Molex came out and trained our guys on how to calibrate it, what's a good crimp, what's a bad crimp. And they even did it in Spanish, which, ensures we have perfect understanding here. And we embrace that.
So, does she build an entire unit's wiring harness at once, or just one part of it?
No, she'll if she's told to kit up 20 sets of that, whatever, she's given a little work order for that. She'll load on the wire. She'll punch in the length.
Oh yes, let's look at this machine. So,
I actually don't operate it.
okay, we don't have to
We can get
operate
her
it.
to do
So you
it later,
spool it
but
up here. It goes through
Smart
here.
people can operate this machine.
Goes through
not
here.
Me. Goes through here. It goes through. There's all kinds of different jaws. So the wire's coming through. It's all been tensioned, and these jaws here have these knife blades like this, and these solenoids invoke them, and they strip the wire, and then they just shoot out here and collect here. And it's great because she can program that, and then you're not getting like repetitive injury
Yeah.
doing wire stripping. Each one is exactly the same and consistent, and it's amazing what you can find on eBay.
Did you really find this on eBay?
Hell yeah!
You did?
Yeah, I bought 2 of them, and I sold one back to a wire buddy of mine.
A wire buddy. Okay.
I took all the good parts
Oh.
and sold the stuff I didn't need. Need some wire. Just hook up wire. It's all
It looks like candy.
multi-stranded copper, tin copper wire.
This wire particularly interests me. Really? What? Oh, that's the broom. I'm
That
sorry.
one don't conduct
I'm sorry.
so good.
It's a broom. I'm sorry.
It's an insulator.
Oops.
This is- the ultimate destination, of course, is to pack somebody up like that suffocating stingray there.
Right.
It's an oldie. the end destination is to pack up, you know, a whole bunch of microphones and steelheads and stingrays, and we've invested a lot in built-in stock. You know, being ready to ship instantly is important to our dealers.
Yeah, you don't want to have people waiting for something
Yeah.
they want to have right away.
No, they'll go buy something
Or
that's
something else.
there.
That's right.
This is a good thing to look at here. Especially, it's funny because in the pro audio world, where people are getting used to using plugins in recording, when they buy analog equipment for the first time, I had an email last night that's like, "Hey, I've got both the gain knobs at midnight, but one channel is 0.5 dBs louder than the other." And I said, "Dude, this isn't a computer. It's analog equipment.
Yeah.
You know, there's a little tolerance and variation in these pots.
Yeah.
And the knobs don't necessarily mean it's at, you know, the same resistance in the
Right.
pot. So just breathe on the pot and just turn the little knob just a hair.
Right.
You know, just look at it and it's gonna, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
Well,
but
it's a learning
gotta
curve.
educate
Yeah,
kids
yeah.
that this is not a computer. That's
Right.
perfect. It's analog. But that's
they'll
why
like
we love it.
But they'll like it better when
Yeah.
they hear it.
So here what we're seeing is these are little devices that we use in some of our limiter circuits. And inside this little Beetle, there's an LED light source, and there's a special kind of resistor that changes its resistance as depending on how much light is hitting it. So you can drive the light, the LED, and then change the resistor, and it's like having a little volume control.
Oh.
And that's how that limiter is changing the level. So, but because there's tons of variation in these parts, we had to build a special little jig, as you see here.
You
and
match pairs?
they go ahead, they measure at three points, and then they're manually going through these boards that they've measured, and, you know, finding husband and wives.
Right.
They're finding
That's
matches.
Nice. That's nice. Match
So that you know, for example, the right channel will be the same as the left channel, or we don't want any of the really slow ones in the production at all,
Right.
or the meter circuit has to match the actual circuit. So it's not only these kind of parts that get matched, but oftentimes potentiometers and capacitors and chokes get matched, so that we try to give you the best consistency that you can. You
Right.
know, try to get computer-like accuracy with analog
In the
parts.
analog world, yeah.
But it takes a lot of extra manpower to do that.
Right.
So
And time and money, and time
Yeah.
is money. And but
in
that's,
America.
In America.
Here, I think they're just doing a little mod or something. These boards have been stuffed, but I think they're replacing a resistor or adding something. But this is a little handwork station.
And what product is this?
This is for the Manley Force, which is a 4-channel microphone preamplifier. It's a great product. It's also in our newer stable of the modern, the neoclassics as well.
Okay, well now I see we're seeing a Chinook.
Here's a Chinook. So this station, Manny's getting his eyeballs on every product that comes off the production line, because, you know, when you're building new gear, it's different from troubleshooting, you know, something that used to work
Right.
and then blew up. You know,
Right.
it's a different story. Something that's wrong with a product that just got built, it's gonna be a human error. Like, you know, they got the green and the red wire mixed up or something, or they loaded the wrong resistor. You can usually find those problems with your eyeballs.
Yeah.
So that's why a visual inspection before it goes
Like
to
here, I
quality
can see they
control.
forgot to solder 2 wires.
I don't think so.
No.
Not for that. Not for that voltage.
I'm just kidding.
I know. But here's a beautiful Chinook. You can see its build is nice and mature these days.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful product.
What does this retail for?
$2,500 or something. Made in America.
Made in America.
There's a lot of parts in there.
And
It's
all
a-
the care that goes into all the parts selection and everything
Yeah.
else, et cetera, et cetera.
We do it. We care. We do it.
I know you
purpose.
care. That's
So,
obvious.
Here's a whole bunch more Chinooks here.
Wow.
They're all stacked up.
All these crazy vinyl people. What's the matter with them?
I don't know. What
It's
have you done,
noisy.
Mikey?
I don't know.
These products are gonna, after they're, I think Manny's just got one more there. So after that, he's gonna roll these puppies.
Well, what happened? Isn't there the faceplate has to get engraved? What is the faceplate on that? That's the whole thing. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. So it got polished and line grained here,
Right.
and then we drove it to the anodizers, and when it was done, we drove over there and picked it up.
That's good.
So yeah, if we were done QCing,
That's a lot.
visual QC, then we'd move into.
So a lot of Chinooks in one
Then
place.
we'd move in. So just pretend like we're gonna roll
Okay.
these in and give the boys a lot of stuff to do.
Okay. Now this room is the QC room.
This is quality control. We got more stuff upstairs to show you, but
Yeah,
since we just
okay.
rolled in here, we'll show you what's happening. Every tube that goes into a Manly product first gets burned in on those jigs over here. Follow me here.
Okay. But then they're used tubes. You're selling people used tubes. What's the matter with you?
That's funny. They got used. No, they got
want new.
they got burned in.
I want new.
So these jigs here will just cook these little 9-pin guys, your 12AX7s and your 6922s
Right.
and your 12AT7, all the little 9-pin tubes.
Looks like Christmas.
They get cooked in here. So they bake for a couple days or whatever.
I do too.
Ah.
Okay.
Here's a whole bunch of old tubes. These are cool. This is from the early 90s. These were made in the EI factory in Yugoslavia.
Now what do you do with all these old tubes? You use them? Or
We don't have too many 12AU7 circuits anymore.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, when they fail our test, they get sold back out onto the market, and then there's somebody else's problem, not mine. This is why you got to be careful when you're buying vacuum tubes,
Of
because someone
course.
could do it to me.
Of course they.
So every tube gets cooked in first on these jigs.
Right.
Bake. And they come in for sorting and measuring and batching. So here's a little jig that my tech guy Paul built a million years ago that will accommodate a couple different tube types. And there's some very specific tests for certain circuits that live in here. Like for instance, sometimes, given layout, you might have the first triode of the circuit are pins 6, 7, 8, and the second triode is pins 1, 2, 3. But you have the right to change that in a layout at will.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always mean that the first triode is the 3. So there's a switch on here that you can reverse the order of the triodes when you're trying to listen for noise.
Ah.
So you can really custom pick the tube for the circuit.
How much time does it take to test and select tubes for a given product? It must take time.
Well, so first the tube's got to burn in,
Right.
so it kind of ages and settles in, and then
We all do.
they've got to plug the tube in and let it warm up for a few minutes, and then with the headphones they're listening to the quality of the noise, whether it's a sporadic kind of grotzel like
Right.
annoying thing like that, so that guy would get rejected. And there's a numeric grade that's given for the noise level, and they get sorted on noise. I mean, that might take him a couple minutes a tube to do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's just a noise test. We got other tests to do.
Okay.
So like this jig here, this guy will step through, you'll plug in a bunch of the 5670s, which is one tube that we use in the variable mu limiter, where we're using 2 triodes. And what's important to that product is that the 2 triodes are matched. And if they're not matched, then you get a percussive noise with like a really fast transient, like a snare drum, when you're trying to use a really fast attack for that. So there's a specific situation where we need to match the triodes. And you can't alter anything in the glass bottle. You only can select for guys that have a good match inside. Okay,
It's a whole
so
nother set of matching.
that's just that. But just because a tube fails that test, we might be able to use it in another kind of circuit that doesn't care about match, like one that's in series, not parallel,
Right.
for instance. So all these tubes have, all the units and all the circuits have different parameters that matter most to them. And here we're able to maximize our yield with these old vacuum tubes and try to find a place where they can be used. You don't have the luxury of just saying, oh, I'm going to buy 100 tubes and use 10.
Right.
You don't want to pay for that.
No. Now, Raytheon doesn't make tubes anymore, right?
No.
So these are all new old stock
These
tubes?
are new old stock. So they're, back in the olden days, we were able to procure, tens of thousands of tubes like this.
Yeah.
I think we bought 28,000 of these in the
Wow.
early 90s.
How many are left?
We're kind of pretty much through it. So
Wow.
at this point, with most of this and output line, white follower stage, we always use this in, but at this point, we've moved on to modern production Electro-Harmonix 12BH7s,
Yeah.
which are made today. So
What happens when someone wants to replace tubes in these things without testing them properly, without doing what you do? What's the consequences of that?
depends on the circuit. Like I said, like if they were trying to just throw any random 5670 in the variable mu that they didn't test for good matching, the result, and it wasn't matched well.
Yeah.
The result would be when they've got a fast transient like a piano or a snare drum, and they're trying to limit it with a very fast attack setting, they might get a percussive tick.
And
So that's specifically what that.
do you want people
consequence-
not to do that kind of thing? Not to
Well, sure, they can buy replacement tubes from us.
from you? That right?
And
yeah.
we have a parts website called tubesrule.com
Right.
where you go search by your product. If you have a Manley steelhead, you can go see the whole tube set that you need for that.
Right.
Then the benefit of that is we're going to give you a set of tubes that was actually tested in the
A matched set.
unit you have.
So, people are not supposed to be rolling tubes and listening and rolling. No, they shouldn't do that.
They can, but
It's
you
not-
know,
it's stupid.
I've seen so many lies on eBay with tubes.
With everything, not just
with
tubes.
everything. But the thing with these tubes is, look, this is just paint, right? So if I were an unscrupulous character, I could take this tube and I could clean off the paint and clean off
That would be harder.
stuff,
yeah.
and then I could rescreen it and tell you that it's something that it's not.
It's done
And
with wine every day.
yeah, exactly. So how do you know when you're buying that bottle of wine before you buy it that it's actually the thing inside?
Well, you don't. You drink it. And besides, as we know, in double-blind tests have proven that all wine tastes the same, and all vodka tastes the same. And
After a few drinks.
they actually
Yeah.
they've had an assembly line where blindfolded, 10 women lined up behind a sheet, and you kiss each one. They're all the same, so it doesn't matter who you marry. Nobody could tell.
So what's Chris doing here? He's looking at something.
This
you're
was dead on
fixing-
burn-in. This is a parts order where the 50K pot, it was initially a 100K pot, which was incorrect, and it's installed backwards.
Oh,
So,
it's handy.
So I'm going to get that straightened
you
out
go.
and get this out the door.
Sometimes tubes do not roll, and we have to fix them.
It's okay.
It's okay. So Chris that's a repair you're working on?
My last repairs are going. This is for a parts order,
Yeah.
and this was dead on burn-in. I went and saw
Okay.
that. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to figure this guy
So
out too.
oh, you haven't figured out why he's dead?
No,
So it's a
I
new-
grabbed him
a
off
new-
burn-in, and then I saw the request for the parts order, and I want to make sure that we can get that out to him before the holiday break.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, sometimes things come off the line, and they don't work.
It happens.
Shocking.
It happens.
And sometimes they shock you.
That's right.
Yes, they do.
And
now that-
so that's these guys' job is they go through the units and measure them. If there's something not working, it's their job to get it working because we cannot ship something out the door.
And now that
doesn't
in
work.
California pots are legal, you don't have to go in the underground to get these pots.
Here's a Chinook getting bored. This is just a random cover he's using to measure it. So Audio Precisions is pretty standard.
So this is a new unit being tested, or
Yes, it doesn't have its faceplate on, so
Right.
that can be added at the very final
Right.
end of things. And he's measuring. It looks like he's measuring some noise floor there, and so on. It looks like he's actually at lunch at the moment. So. Oh yeah, there's a Manley headphone amplifier, the brand new one. It also is a preamplifier, and it has a remote control, a radio frequency remote control, that will work all through your house.
it's
in
a
2
very
minutes.
it's a very beautiful desktop thing
Can be.
for like an executive, a harried executive.
Even this wood here was cut on our laser machine,
Oh.
and then they had to build these special clamps to glue the veneer in there.
Is this a power supply for that, or is
No,
that's something else?
it's
This
some other
is
thing.
self-contained.
Yes.
And what does this retail for?
The intro special ends in a few weeks, so the 2019 Retail price is $4,500.
And everyone watching this video gets one free.
They get 2 for free.
Ellen DeGeneres is paying. Okay.
Here's a Manley Force. This is a 4-channel microphone preamplifier. And again, through efficiencies and how we designed this thing to build, this pops together in 1 hour. And
Wow.
it replaces a 2-channel unit that was designed in the early 1990s that used to take like 8 hours to wire up.
Oh my
so
God.
This is how we can, provide even better quality at lower price by just being better with our engineering in our design work. So that's for the last couple of years we've been working on that a lot. And it's a really beautiful unit,
Yeah, it is really cool.
and it's been real well accepted.
Can it make me sound good if I sing through it?
Get on it.
Let's do it.
Wow.
And this is a preamp right here? Is that what this is?
That's a line preamplifier
Yeah.
right there. Yep. We saw Saul assembling some more of those there.
Let's take a look at that. That's a product that our type of viewer would be interested
Oh,
in.
yeah.
What does it look like in the front?
Well, if you
Can I get over there? I don't think I can get over there.
Everything is possible with
Everything's
these,
possible. I'll let you do the rolling because I
With-
don't want to break
with
anything.
these wheeled carts.
Anything more than I have to. Ah,
There you go. So again, we've got the motorized volume control so that we can control it with the radio frequency remote,
right.
and it's a really great little unit.
So it's volume, balance, on and off, and 5 inputs.
Yeah, what more do you need?
5 line inputs.
What was neat about that we did with this unit is we put the volume control at the back end of the circuit, so you've got all the gain happening, and then the volume control, and then the output buffer, which is different from some of our older designs. And that's to, you're only turning up the amount of tube noise that you need, instead of having all the gain just sitting out on the back end of the circuit,
Right.
unattenuated. And it's a very low gain preamp. It's 12 dB, I think 11 or 12 dB a gain. Again, in the old days when the line preamp used to be so much part of your phono stage amplification chain, that changed when now you have to be able to accommodate, your 2 or 3 volt or output
Right.
DAC, and then the phono stages have also grown up in gain as the years have gone on. So
Yes.
you're less reliant on. There's no reason why you need a 24 dB line amp anymore.
Right, and
So-
it's better to have less gain.
Yeah, it's quieter and less impact to the sound overall.
Yep.
So this is QC World in here. Yeah, and after they're done, they come back out just because it's cooler and more space out here to bake in. To just cook.
Everything burns in here, right?
Everything just burns in. It's very simple. We'd rather something gets as hot as it can get and break here than in your house.
Yeah. And what is this with all that cool meter on it?
That's a stereo limiter compressor that's called the NuMu. It's a different version of this more classic older unit called the Variable Mu. Just a different take on a similar concept. And we created these meters. I'll show you with the
Is
assembly
that
here.
that's a virtual meter?
No,
It's a real meter.
I'm trying to find one I can show you. There's 2 meters mounted in the back, and one of them has the reverse wound in reverse. The motor wound in reverse because gravity is working on it that way. Because one of the meters is physically, inverted from the other, so it's a reverse coil, so that the ballistics of the meters work out. It's in like this. You can see that they're 2 discrete meters. Not discrete as in discrete transistor. I mean
Yes,
2 separate
yeah.
meters
Oh,
that we've made this whole housing
you've
for.
merged.
We've merged them. And then this is a light gasket here for the illumination so it doesn't leak out the top of the
Right.
unit.
This is a
but
prototype, right?
this is an ugly build copy.
Yeah, 'cause you wouldn't have this on it.
No, this has just been, this is all beat up.
I want
just
to
kicking
explain that
around.
to people so they don't think that's
Yeah,
man.
this is a very early unit that's a production copy. Again, it's just to reference that you're going to plug in this wire like that, and
Right.
the wires go this way.
It's funny, the meter looks much better from the front than it does from
Yeah.
the back,
But that's how that's made.
especially with the backlighting. It looks
Yeah.
very cool.
But also the artwork of this meter has to disguise the joints between the 2 meters as well.
Right, and you don't
in
see
the
it at all.
center. So
Yeah,
it's a pretty handsome pup.
it is. Very good looking.
It's a whole assembly that we design and manufacture here, and it lives behind the faceplate, and it's illuminated with a blue LED, and it looks the bomb.
Looks great. It's
But
really
beyond that, let me tell you why it's cooler than the old unit, because the old guy,
cool. That's the old guy.
this is the old guy here.
With the retro look. Now this is being.
Yeah, but look how far apart these meters are.
Yeah.
So when you're working with this unit, you know, your eyeballs just jumping back and forth,
Yeah.
left, right, and it's actually hard to kind of see if you're matching because you've got to keep jumping your eye. The needles are right next to each other, so you can, you know, check your left-right accuracy so much better.
Now is this being burnt in because someone wants the old school one, or?
No, we continue. They're different models.
Oh, I see.
But this unit was designed in like 1994, and it's a classic. And Bob Ludwig has 3.
Ah.
You know,
Yeah.
they're.
Well, he gets good results, so obviously.
It's a world. This is a very world famous unit, and this is a more modern hybrid unit. Actually, it's a tubes and FETs and transistors and transformer less on the output. So it's a faster, punchier, kind of cleaner version than the older variable mu.
What I find most interesting is that in the same factory, on the same lines, you are making pro audio gear and home audio gear. And that is really, I think, key to what you do, because you understand both worlds, and both worlds are important. The people that make the recordings have nothing unless people buy the recordings and play them back sounding good.
Yeah.
So you got both sides.
The First Studio guys, they're not just using this gear for fun.
Right.
They're using it to earn their living,
Right.
and people are working. And
Yeah.
you know, for like reliability issues and so on, if the thing goes down in the middle of, you know, a session,
Yeah.
and it's like you got to stop the studio, and you're paying $1,000 a day, and now you can't record because, you know, your mic went down.
Yeah.
That's going to cost a lot of money, and
Yeah.
people, when that happens, they're going to want it fixed very rapidly, and they need a lot of attention for that. So we're trained to respond, and you know, to these guys, and you know, jump through hoops to keep
You're a
all our
first responder.
customers.
You're a
I'm
first responder.
responder.
Yeah.
Keep all our customers happy, but that kind of we're very attentive to our
Yeah.
customers.
Yeah.
Customer service is really big here.
The worst thing is when you own a product, especially in the hi-fi world. You own a product, you have a problem with it, and you call and no one's there,
Yeah.
and there's no answering machine, or there is an answering machine and no one ever calls you back.
Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah.
I try to tell readers, if I call a company and there's no one there during business hours, then it's not really a company.
Yeah.
It's a guy or a girl.
Or-
So, since you manufacture products that have both tubes and solid-state devices, are you finding that access to solid-state devices is becoming more difficult?
Yeah, almost worse than tubes.
'Cause it's-
Especially like just recently a FET that we were using, a through-hole part, obsoleted, you know, so then we got to scramble to go find another FET that we can use in that circuit. What you see on top here is a whole bunch of burn-in fixtures for the switching power supplies that are
Those new ones.
those new ones that
Wow.
are infiltrating our world. So
And do
here's-
they emit noise, ultrasonic noise? That has to be-
They radiate at 125 kilohertz, but the radiation is very low, and it decreases very quickly with
Exponentially,
distance.
yeah.
Yes.
125K? I can still hear that.
Oh! So the benefit.
Oh, that's 125. Yeah, 125.
You really don't have the hum in the units like you used to have
Right.
before. So for instance, here's a, it's on, so don't be touching all
I'm
this
not.
stuff. Here's a linear supply. And linear means a big power transformer
Right.
and a whole bunch of capacitors to further filtrate out the 60 hertz here in America or 50 hertz rest of
Right.
the world. And you have certain components like this choke here that's just dying to pick up the radiated field from here. And even if it's a toroidal transformer, like you see in the Chinook,
Sure.
it's still radiating.
Yeah.
It's just they're different field shapes, you know. So people like to say, "Oh, a toroid transformer is better." Well,
I've heard stories that's just like an old wives' tale.
it is an old wives' tale.
Nothing wrong with old wives, by
So
the way.
this
I have
guy-
one. Oh, I said that.
Hey, you be nice. This has a field. What you're not appreciating here is there's a wrap around this transformer of lam material, transformer lamination, you know,
Right.
the grain-oriented steel.
Yeah.
Underneath this black tape, there's a wrap of that controls the field, and also we know where the field goes.
Is there
So,
a computer
see
program?
this?
Is there a computer program that simulates the field that's generated by these parts so you can then design around that?
No, we take the actual part and measure it.
Oh,
So
measure-
steel right
yeah.
here, it's just living here to help. We experiment and determine if we put this piece of steel and ground it here, it's going to shield this stuff from picking up.
Oh, wow, that's
because it's really close here.
Yeah,
You know,
that's interesting.
it's
I find that
this,
interesting.
this is a really old product. This one goes back to just about 30 years ago.
Still made?
Still made today, and we're giving one away right now for our 30th anniversary.
Wow.
There's a little contest online right now.
Oh, cool. And then what is this?
This is a Manly Pultec EQ, so it's
Oh.
an equalizer.
Okay, so here's an interesting thing. So this is the inside of a Chinook phono preamp, and you were telling me that the orientation of the orientation of this board.
Oh yeah, the first production units, this board was rotated 90 degrees, but because the one channel was closer to the power transformer, that channel was a little bit noisier. So actually, we realized we could improve it by rotating this whole board 90 degrees and getting the input stage furthest away from the power transformer. But Martine, you were telling me you'd still hand tune and rotate every power transformer?
Correct. Yeah. Just we list the knob, and then we rotate it, according the less hums. So a little bit according to the AP with minus 80, whatever.
Right.
It has to be both channels. So, and then we rotate it, and then we tie the knot, and then we listen to the speaker if it less hums. So. That's
For each one, so each unit that you make has to be hand tuned like that. That's
Yeah, we just
That's
find the best
the
optimization.
correct.
So that the transformer radiation is producing the least amount of hum in
now
the channels.
we're telling people this. Are you worried that the end user crazy audiophile is going to open his up and make sure that it's perfectly rotated?
I advise against that
Yes.
because
Yeah.
there's a lot of mains voltage
that's
here,
correct.
and if you
It's
you
not-
touch this stuff, you might be in for
Die.
a
It's
shocking
very
result.
Yes. Okay. Don't do that. Just
No, just
understand.
for,
this man.
This is for tech only.
Yeah. This man's gonna get shocked for your benefit.
Yeah, Martine already got shocked.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm
So
sure
careful.
everybody that works with this stuff gets shocked once in a while. I'm sure
We
it's
do.
inevitably going to happen. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Martine.
You're welcome.
This is the burn-in bench, is what you're looking at here, and that's before Pat assembles it into a box, cleans
yeah.
it up.
Okay, so he's the packing guy.
He's Pac-Man.
Packing shipping manager.
Not Green Bay Packers.
More than
the
just packing.
Chino
He's
Packers.
the shipping manager.
There's so,
So
much
he's
paperwork. I mean, this is a hookup one. I don't know how much that one is. But
And so you have to take each of these units and you have to get them ready to get them all cleaned up so there's no fingerprints on
yeah. You can't let people
them. Make
think
them look
humans make
beautiful.
them.
That's right. It's true.
It's true.
make sure they're the right voltage, nothing's rattling around. Like I'll get Chinooks and I'll flip them over.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
piece of
sometimes
solder or
there's a
something.
stray, crinkle washer in there. Or
Oh, I
something.
know. I get a lot of pieces that I get to review. Shake, shake, shake.
It happens. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, it
again,
happens. No, I catch
We
it
ask
before.
people to remember that American people, like human beings, are building this gear, and
We're human.
sorry,
We're
sometimes
human.
there's an extra screw that
Right.
we didn't even charge you for.
Most people are understanding, aren't they? I don't know.
Not anyway. All right, let's go upstairs.
Okay, we're going upstairs.
Let's rock it. Upstairs. There's some built-up stock there. We're ready to ship some units to you.
And what are those?
Those are
Let's see what they are. Let's see what they're built up and shipping.
Chinooks.
An MC
MCH is Chinook.
Oh,
That's a Chinook. That's a mastering slam. Bunch of them. There's some mic mates, which is a microphone and mic pre switching thing. We built those all out. There's a smattering of There's some skipjack switchers here. Oh, well, we can look at parts. Look at this shot here.
Yeah, wow.
Parts is parts.
And you have parts for all the old units to
Yeah.
replacement parts.
We can support anything we've ever built.
So this is a whole module that gets replaced if something.
That is a mixer channel module, indeed. This is a kind of older product, but we're building out a few right now.
But you got to have them.
Oh, we're
You
gonna.
got to have every
gotta
pot.
have 'em to build
every
'em.
pot.
Yeah, it's a full-time job for Verna over there to keep track of all this stuff.
Wow, look at all this. Look at all this stuff.
Do you know the good news?
Wow, there's an old.
Yeah.
This is
the
like a,
library
this is like a
bin.
card catalog.
Isn't it funny?
Fuses. You know what's scary now? When with Radio Shack gone, if a fuse blows, you're screwed. You got to
Yeah.
go online to Amazon and order, 10 fuses or 50 fuses or
Yeah.
whatever, and you have to wait days sometimes to get your. So in the meantime, you just have to stick some aluminum foil on an old fuse and stick it in there. Anything.
Yeah.
To make,
But a lot of times, if a fuse blows, you've got a major problem.
right. It's something.
So it might be good advice to just take a little pause. This is was the build plan that we calculated for the beginning of
Wow.
the year. It's our little system that we use to know when we have to kit different parts, different production runs.
Yeah. Wow.
So Verna's job here, she's got her parts database she's working with. This is
Wow.
all kind of homebrewed in FileMaker. All
Yeah.
these
And you know what? This is all
databases.
stuff that people watching this probably, if they're thinking, they're saying to themselves, I never knew all this goes into this. This is the people that go to hi-fi shows and go, I know what the parts cost of that
Yeah.
is. As if that really has anything to do with what something ends up costing.
Yeah, well, what she's doing right now is actually pulling the parts out of the inventory in the computer so we know how many parts are in the bins,
Yeah.
In the old days, when you ran out of a part, you just bring one over and say, order some more of this. But now we've grown
Yeah.
up a bit since those olden days.
I got you.
So, yeah, there's some ways there's copy units.
And somebody knows where everything is.
Verna does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
If we need to find something, we gotta ask her.
that's useful.
Oh yeah. It's a lot of money here, and the
I'm
good
s-
news is it's all paid for, and the bad news is it's all paid for.
Right, that's right. It's just sitting there, and
It's a lot
just,
of dollars back here. See all these
yeah.
faceplates?
And these are all chassis and.
Yeah, these things,
Wow.
and also, just the handling of all the parts and make sure that you don't scratch them.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Upstairs.
Let's go upstairs.
I'm trying to hold the camera as steady as I can, ladies and gentlemen at home. I know you bitch and complain, but you haven't bought me a steady cam. I would like a steady cam, but I don't have one. So here you see this is a big giant space, and they're doing all this stuff in here. So how many people work here?
About 25.
Now we're in the ping pong room.
So Transformerland is us winding all our audio transformers and all of our chokes. Right.
that's-
So how do you wind a transformer? Well, first you design it and you figure out what you're going to do. So here, this part's been in production for 25 years or so. The first thing Joe's going to do is he's going to put 2012 turns of 43 gauge wire. He's going to start that wind on pin 6, and he's going to program those turns. He's going to set the pitch, and then
And
he's
it gets
going
right on. Oh wow.
see like that. So he's going to pull, the really skinny 43 gauge wire. So
Right.
it's like a hair.
Yeah.
So he's going to pull that. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to let him do it. But he'll pull it around. He'll tie it off to a pin. He's got this programmed in. Well, that one counted 214 as he turned it when he took it off. He'll press go, and it will put that wind on, and he'll finish it on the pin that it tells him to. And then he's going to he's going to isolate that off with tape and insulate it. And then the next thing he's going to do is put 900 turns of 40 gauge wire, and he's going to pull that, and so on. So
On the same one.
Yeah. If he,
So how long does it take to build one of these transformers?
Joe can answer all those questions. I know on this specific one here, this is this is a Manly Snapper 100-watt output transformer
Wow.
for the tube amp. This one's had all its wires cut off, and it's just sitting here being a doorstop. But there's 19 sections in this transformer, so there's 19 times he has to wind
Whoa.
and insulate and all that. And it takes him, and then he has to put all the laminations on. It takes him about 4 hours to build this part.
One part.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's why he costs so much money.
Yeah.
That's 4 hours. That's a lot. It's a lot of labor. However, this part rocks. This guy will give you 100 watts, full power at 20 hertz. It's a
Wow.
fucking good design.
Must be.
It is. So that's might be our best sounding output transformer.
These are all your big.
These are big guys for the hi-fi products. That's a 250 watt or a 500 watt output transformer. And here's the Stingray one. The Stingray was a great thing, a great exercise for me back in the 90s. Because we had, do you remember those tiny triodes we used to build? Little baby EL84 amps?
Yep.
I think Corey Greenberg was this. And he said, I remember reading the review, and he said, well, it's a nice little amp, but there's no bass, there's no balls at all. And I was thinking about it, it's like, well, it's not the tube's fault. The tubes want to give you all the frequency, all the frequencies. It must be the transformer. So we set upon redesigning designing a new transformer. The first thing we looked at the old transformer and measured the inductance, because where are you going to get bass? Probably inductance is a good place to look. And say that the old part was 60 henries, just pretend, I don't know what it was. And so it's like, well, let's recalculate, let's use a different core material, let's bring that inductance up to 120 or whatever. And we did that, and, within a few hours, because we could do that all here.
Yep.
And then we put it on the test bench and measured it, just like John Atkinson would.
All right.
And it measured phenomenally. We could see the improvement in the bass response at power and all that. And then really quickly we got two of them into a pair of amplifiers and listened with a big knife switch, old versus new.
Right. And
And it's like, boring. It's boring.
yeah.
Didn't really get us exciting. So
Is
then,
that because it wasn't fast enough? It was just.
what we ended up doing, it's like, let's look at this again. Let's change that inductance and bring it down a little bit and let it saturate just a hair in the lower frequencies to develop this kind of bloom sound, because it's a little amp trying to sound like a big amp.
Right. And it's all about tuning. All this stuff
Yeah,
is about tuning.
but having this facility here, we were able to do all this development like pretty quickly,
Right.
and then come up with something that really sounded good in the
Yeah.
end. And that's the goal, is to make it sound
Yes, that is the goal. Not just measure good. Sound
But
good.
yeah, you measure and you listen.
Yes.
You got to do both.
Yes, you have to do
Science is actually involved in this stuff. So there's a bigger one in machine. These are made in Southern California, which is great because if one breaks, we can just drive it down there and they can fix it.
both. West Washington Boulevard. I know where
Yeah.
that is.
These are great machines. So back in the 90s, there was a guy from the Reichenbach company, who's now Cinemag, that all comes from the Jensen world,
Right.
that we were able to hire to reverse engineer out the parts we were using, which were Souder transformers at the time, and get all the winding diagrams for those parts, and then set up this production line and teach us how to do this. So we've been doing this for since the
Cool.
mid-90s. It's a very special part of the factory, and there's not a lot of manufacturers out there that are doing this.
No, I've been to only a few places that do
Macintosh
this.
do, for instance.
Macintosh does, and in Greece.
And who does?
In Greece, Ypsilon.
Oh, yeah. Joe's doing the real boring part of the operation right now.
And that's a special kind of tape that will not lose its stickiness
It's
after a couple of years.
special Mylar tape that's always used for transformer stuff. But you can use different insulators inside a transformer. You can use what's called fish paper, which is it's kind of like a little skinny cardboard. This is a special Mylar tape. He's slicing this right now so he can make little pre-cut little tabs to isolate
Yep.
the top of the transformer pins here.
And we've transformer winding music playing.
Yeah, this was written to play
Of course, if there's a
copy.
copyright on this, they'll take the video down. But
They will?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You turn it off.
We can
Turn the
volume
volume.
down
Good
for a
idea.
minute.
Good idea.
All right. That was a
Sometimes they do that. Sometimes they don't.
special transformer music.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Let's put the bobbin on. He's programmed in already how many turns he's going to do, and he
Yeah.
already set the width of how. I'm losing my words. The distance. It's going to go back and forth.
Yeah.
The pitch. Sorry, the pitch.
Sort of like a record.
It's kind of
And
like
cut a
a.
lacquer. There's a pitch
It's kind of
involved.
like a lead screw kind of thing.
Yes.
So he's tying on to his first lead pin there.
Okay.
We're on turn number 1. 3 hits go. The wires come up through the tensioner to make
Yep.
sure that it's always kept through that tension, so you don't have any loose wires rattling around in there. It's very precise machinery.
And it may give you a lottery number.
So you go 2012 turns.
Yep. This is as exciting as watching paint dry.
Joe's got a very exciting job, full of tension and stress.
Yes.
Just
He's
wire
wired
tension.
all the time.
Wire tension. Presto. He's putting his insulation tape on
Yep.
there. And then you can see he's handling with the tweezers. His greasy fingers are never touching the.
Right. He's
The
good. He's
wire.
good with it. He's good with it.
It's all good. Well, he's made thousands and tens of hundreds of thousands of transformers.
Now, how come you're going to get a new piece of tape as opposed to using something that you just cut?
Because it's that wide.
Oh, oh, it's the whole thing. I
Yeah.
got you.
And that insulates out that winding.
And then you're putting another one on top of that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure we have to stay for the next one.
Nope. It's going to be more of the same.
Yeah, we've seen. How many layers go on this particular transformer?
3.
3.
This is a
This one's actually a bifilar winding, so it's 2 windings at a time, 2 wires at a time. Makes it a little different from the other one.
You see that? He's got one is green and one is red. That's just a lacquer color.
Right.
It's the same gauge wire, but as Joe said, bifilar is 2 at the same time.
It's Christmas.
That little tape there really helps in handling from physical breakages and things like that.
Yep. How many does this get?
900.
Won't take as much time. We can get on that.
Somebody can wind one of these transformers from this video. Piece of cake. Now you know all the state secrets.
Yes, they're all exposed now for the world to see. We have the same machine, and in Germany, and they are better.
They're
They're
better.
better in Germany.
Taller.
I will insult many people now. They know I'm kidding.
Yeah, this one's gonna go up to 2012 again.
Oh, I thought it was only 900.
Or 900. Oh, sorry, we're still in the
Just
second
shows you
one.
I'm listening, that I'm
All
paying
right,
attention, right?
Mikey, you're paying attention.
That's right. Okay, I think that's all we need. You've seen a 2,000 wire
Turns.
coil, and now you've seen a 900 coil.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is a high pot tester, so what this does, high pot is high potential, I believe.
Yes.
So you would put the you know, they're going to measure this transformer they're going to put it through this test. So they're going to send a very brief, 2,000 volts or so.
Yeah.
And that's just checking to make sure that all the insulation is perfect. Because again, we can get that to fail here, it's not going to blow up in your house.
Yeah.
So these kind of testing stages are really important.
Yes.
Because, with tube transformers, you've got, a couple hundred volts on the primary side with the tube anodes, and then you've
Yeah.
got speakers or something on the
Yeah.
other. So you don't want those hundreds of volts on your
No, you don't.
hands when
No,
you're
you
tightening
do
your
not.
binding post. So that's the story there.
And there's your enameled.
This is, magnet wire, as they call it. It's enameled. It's all pretty for Christmas.
Yeah, it is actually.
It's varnish on copper. It's really pretty simple. There's different thicknesses of varnish. There's like single build and double build, but mostly I think we're dealing with all double build here. Bought from reliable suppliers. That's another thing. You go buy some janky wire and the insulation's all messed up in the middle of the reel. You can have some major problems. So
Yeah.
the
and
integrity.
costly problems too.
Oh, hell yeah. The integrity of all of our supply is so important. So back here, these are finished parts that have been wound and encapsulated and the core material put on. And then they were put into mu metal shields. Mu metal it's a special annealed thing that helps it reject hum, basically.
Yes, I have a sheet of mu metal that I keep around to use when I'm getting hum from things.
Yeah. And then, as you see here, remember we were talking about part matching. So these two parts were measured when they were getting put together, and then they're taped together because they were a good match. So they're going to go to one massive passive, and him's going to be left and him's going to be
Yeah.
right. So that's the
Gotcha.
kind of detail that we do in selection.
Okay.
But we'll,
So this is your new computer here, I see. From the Apple from 82. This is from like 92. So
Yeah.
it's a decade's worth of progress.
So okay, what we see in here is our R&D department. We've got a guy at lunch and a guy on vacation already. So sorry, we only have Mr. Draftsman Corey here, but he's a lot. So you can see what he's doing. He's doing some chassis drawings on the left and some printed circuit board layouts on the right.
Yeah, we're doing our updates to a new product, and then we have to make it all fit.
Yo, these are the new products, Mikey.
And this has, when this is done, it will handle up to 14 variations of circuit boards, depending on what's needed.
He's designed a
three
chassis with, a bunch of mounting points, and so the chassis will accommodate a couple different models.
That's another efficiency thing too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well-
Smart.
We're trying to be smart. Trying to grow up.
Yeah. Grow up, would you?
Grow up already.
I've given up on that.
All right, Mikey, you want to see a prototype?
And that's the chassis.
This is the chassis we're working on. We've got a new series of preamplifiers coming out the second half of 2019. This is a prototype.
Line level preamps.
This has a phonostage in
Oh.
it as well. So there's three models. One is a replacement for the Chinook.
Oh.
The second is the replacement for the Manley Jumbo Shrimp line preamplifier. And then this particular product is a combination of both of them. So you have a phonostage and a line stage all together.
And so it's a new phonostage circuit.
It's the Chinook stage.
Okay.
That incorporates right into the line preamplifier.
Right.
So you don't have to buy two separate boxes.
And the power supply is.
Power supply is one of our new switching power supplies that we've proven over the last couple of years in the Pro Audio range. And the most important thing about this power supply, besides all the technical prowess it demonstrates, is the damn thing sounds better.
Sounds better. And this is a CD player too. You put a slot in there. So?
No.
Just kidding.
The
Just
dim
kidding.
sum comes out.
Okay.
I
Anything.
remember your joke.
Yeah.
Actually, the power switch for this guy is kind of clever, and you're going to wave your hand,
Oh.
and there's a proximity sensor, and that's how you turn it on.
Cool.
It's a bit effete, but I hope that the audiophiles
I think
love
they'll
it.
enjoy it.
It'll be fun. We've also had a
They're
time
used to it from
you're-
the men's room at the airport.
Yeah.
Where the paper towels come
and
out. So.
soap just comes
Soap
out.
comes
so
out.
it's kind of like that.
But this just turns it on. No soap comes out.
No
and
soap.
No paper towel.
no paper towels, and the toilet doesn't.
And
flush.
this is the dip switches for the loading. And
Yeah, and we're doing Well, this is, like I said, it's just a prototype now. We've got
Right.
we're having a meeting on January 15 to go over some of the
Now, this
circuit.
is moving magnet and moving coil.
Yeah.
So then, what's the first stage? I don't see transformers there. So you use, is it a?
No, it's the same as the Chinook. This is the front stage of the Chinook, just
Oh.
like that. It's
Oh.
just laid out differently.
Okay.
So you've got the constant current source FET in the bottom of
Oh,
the
okay.
triode,
Yeah.
like you do the steelhead and
Yeah.
the Chinook. It's the
It's
same circuit.
Very smart.
So this,
That-
again, this is a prototype layout. We've got a lot of things to discuss in our January meeting. And for all I know, there could be spelling errors here. I don't know. This is just what we're working on right
5
now.
inputs, 2 outputs, and a record output.
Yeah.
Single-ended.
All single-ended. Yeah, this design, you know, people are like, I want balanced ins and outs. It's like, well, sorry guys, this is all an inherently single-ended circuit inside. And to balance it, one's got to add more stuff. Like,
Yep.
you can do a impedance balance output, you can do a chip output, but it's not like a differential tube stage. This
Right.
guy is a single-ended puppy. And you know what? I like the sound of that circuit better. I like
that's what matters.
the even order harmonics of a single-ended circuit as opposed to the auto order
Right.
harmonics of a push-pull circuit. So
And
that's a prototype of the first absolute headphone stage, and you can see that switching power supply here.
Yep.
These are the output transformers that, you know, I think the guys went through 22 different prototypes of. But
Wow.
since we do it here, you know, we're pretty easy to develop the coolest part we can.
I think this is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a wheel on the pot there. It's kind of neat. It's a lot of parts on this board.
Now, who designed the look of this thing?
Zia did. Zia Faruqi. He's on vacation today, so you don't get to meet him. He came up with this whole form factor in the chassis design.
It's very cool because it's got some vertical lift to it, which I like, and it's narrow, which I like, so that it doesn't take up a lot of desk space, and it looks cool.
It does look cool. It was a very ambitious design too, because we were dealing with some technologies like melting plastic to attain a curve. You know, where it's like, oh, when you melt plastic, sometimes all the holes change sizes, and
Oops.
there's a lot of work that went into getting that dialed in. And yeah, you can build one, but then try to build 100.
Yeah,
of
of
them,
course,
You
that's-
know, so here's some early experiments.
Wow.
Here, see, it's good.
Good.
It says it is.
And where does that get manufactured? You don't do that yourself.
The sheet of plexiglass comes in the building here, and we engrave it while it's flat in our laser engraver.
Right.
See, well,
Yeah.
that's a clear one. Then it goes to a place that built this jig to get this shape. And then they heat it up to a certain temperature and clamp it in this jig or something and get
And
this
they had to
happen.
make design the jig specifically for this product.
Yeah, and
Wow. So a lot of
everything-
R&D and a lot of.
a lot of pain in
investment,
the
yeah.
ass factor on this.
So then and there's no guarantee it's going to be a successful product. You just have to hope it will be.
Well, no,
And it seems to be.
it's guaranteed to be successful because it kicks ass.
Okay, well that's a good reason.
Awesome. It's a really great product. It sounds amazing. So we're real.
And you can
proud of
use
that.
any impedance headphone into it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got 3 different output settings. It's got a lot of variability in the sound. You can change the feedback amount. You can change topology from push-pull to single-ended.
And you can put in 1/4-inch phono plug headphones,
Yeah, you
and
can
you
do
can put
those.
in mini jack,
All
mini
those
plug
things.
headphones.
You can do
And how does that work? It goes into a different.
4-pin XLR,
It goes into.
different jacks. And there's RCA outputs as well.
So
you
it has
can
all
use
of them.
Yeah, you can use it as a preamplifier
Oh.
because here's it back there. So you've got 2 sets of RCA inputs,
Oh.
and then you've got a set of RCA jack outputs, so you can send that to your hi-fi system,
Oh.
maintaining whatever sources you have here.
I
If
see.
you push and hold the power button, it goes into bypass mode where it just auto routes input 1 to output RCA.
Ah.
So it goes through to your other system if you're not listening to headphones.
Right.
Pardon, this is just sitting here on the bench, but there's a 4-pin out.
You're pardoned.
Okay. I can pardon myself.
And then on the front, where do you plug your headphones in on the front?
You do not. Sorry to say.
You do what?
You do not. The outputs are here. There's your 1/4-inch output, and there's your 4-pin XLR.
Oh, I see.
And apologies, this is all like lines.
Well, that's fine too. It's actually
It won't arrive to you like that.
I
It's
assume
a
that.
prototype. So that's
Okay.
the guts of that puppy there.
Cool.
But yeah, the form factor, you're gonna have it next to you that you'll plug in the back there. But
That's fine. It's better that way because that way the cord doesn't get in the way of the volume control.
yeah, some people are like, why didn't you put it on the front? It's like, well, this is a new form factor. It's not a
I
little
like it. All right.
square box. Jeepers creepers! Look, this whole box is just filled with failed prototypes. here.
Wow.
Well,
Failed technologically, in those they didn't
they
bend
just
right, or
things stretched, or they scratched it, or what? Any kind of failure is living in this failure box.
wow. Can I jump in?
So, no, Mikey, you're not a failure. What are
Oh, you have no
talking
idea.
about?
Okay.
So we're done with that. The last thing, what's a new product stuff?
That was interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting those new products out.
Let me give a picture up here. Wait a second. I'm gonna stop.
This is Gamma's office. He's the COO basically. He's the ops man. But he's got his own little private enterprise happening here where
Oh.
he's repairing these products for Rafa Sardina, who's a famous recording engineer. And Rafa just collects all kinds of old equipment, and Gamma's helping him get it all
Oh, that's
working.
cool. He does that on his own time, right?
Yeah, yeah. He's actually clocked out today dealing with all
Yeah.
the stuff before the holidays. This is an example that the customer had a unit, and here's an example where he's been plugging the tubes in and out like so many times,
Yeah.
where he wore the sockets out.
Yeah, I get that.
He had this unit here, which was actually like number 1 and number 2 that was built in the early 90s, but now all the sockets, because he's been joking around with tubes so much, the sockets all need retentioning. My office.
So now we're in Ivana's office, which has all kinds of good things here, including
Stuff to look at.
her-
Oh, that's me and Eric Burden in 1989.
with who?
Eric Burden and
Oh yeah,
Burns,
yeah.
And there's me
Sky
and
Pilot.
Etta James.
Oh wow. Cool.
Yeah. Well, when I met you, Mikey, that's what I looked like.
Looky there.
I know, it's so long time ago.
And then there's this, and then there's this.
It's a clock.
It's a scandal over tube killing.
That.
That was in the London subway,
In London
I assume.
Subway, yeah.
They're called the tubes,
I
and yet
didn't understand why I wanted that poster, but
yes, and yet there's no tubes in the London subway. This is a very homey kind of office, don't you think? I think it is.
Only I wouldn't pick. I'd say cluttered would be.
No, my office is disgusting cluttered. You haven't seen cluttered.
You see his little baby tannoys? Little baby.
Yeah,
mini
are they really?
autographs?
Are they really?
Yeah. They send them to me. They're so cute. They're so cute.
That is cute.
This is just an office enjoyment
Yeah.
system, and the listening we do when we're developing a product oftentimes will happen in a really great environment in LA.
As it should.
In,
It should
in a
happen.
mastering studio. Or
Okay, and
something.
these are famous. These are like some very cool.
We love music. There's some of my photography on the bottom and top,
Oh,
and then
cool.
these rock and roll posters, these ads, were given to me by Rick Rosen, our great friend from.
A friend, Rick Rosen, who wrote for Stereophile and
Yeah.
passed away way too young.
Yeah, so he gave me a bunch of these posters, and I had them all framed. They're just.
There's Van before he made the transition to an old geezer. It happened all of a sudden.
Almost looks like Neil Diamond in that picture.
The birds.
Oh damn it! Where'd all the
Anyway,
birds go?
we're not going to. Let's move on to more important things. So this is
It's a microphone room, but the ladies ran away again. So over there, you see all the microphone bodies
right,
that are being assembled.
and this is your biggest microphone, right here.
Yeah,
is
this
that true?
is this is a new ribbon mic that we've
Wow.
come out with. It's very airy sounding.
yeah. Is that a lapel? You wear that in your lapel?
Yeah, this is
Okay,
a
okay.
lav.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, we should have mic'd it up for this video.
Yes.
I should have been just wearing this thing around. Yeah, it's the world's largest ribbon microphone. Here in Chino, California. We're really clever.
And it cleans the air too. Okay. So this
Here's some microphone bodies. One thing about these mics, the suspension that isolates the microphone from the world lives on the body and you don't ever need to take it off. You can, if you need to service the mic or change a tube or something like that, all you have to do is just take out the whole guts out of the center. So the suspension
That's
and
smart.
the body live
That's
together.
just smart.
It's the way it's been.
Now, are these all this as part of that? This is a
they
component
just
of
haven't
that.
put the
Right.
suspension on yet. So
And-
that's called the Reference Gold microphone. As you see, it's 24 karat plated
Wow.
gold. The black and red one's our most popular thing that we build. That's a Manley Reference cardioid mic, and so it's got one polar pattern. And then the newest mic that we came out with 2 years ago is a Manley Reference silver microphone, which is a third different type of capsule. It's more based on the Sony C37 capsule design, made by David Josephson in California as well.
Now, these microphones, the way they look, that has a psychological effect on the person singing into it. Don't you think it does? You're looking at something,
Sure.
and these are attractive to look at.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that's true. And really, the design of this whole body and suspension system really had more to do with like what we could easily manufacture on our lathes that we saw in the
Right.
machine shop there. Because at the time we didn't have access to like extrusions and all kinds of different metalworking technology.
But it's a very cool looking microphone.
Thanks. It's a unique design visually, that's for sure.
Now, what goes inside of these things?
Well, the guts,
Let's
they go.
take a look at the
Here's
guts.
some guts. Here's some big guts. Right here. So, Manley Transformer, we saw those being wound upstairs.
Right.
Encased in metal. There's where Mr. Tube goes.
What
As you-
tube? What tube goes in there?
He's going to be, what are we using, Caro? 12AT? 12AT7 these
Oh.
days. 12AT, 12AX, or 607 tubes. We've moved through each type.
Yeah.
It just depends, like, what tube being made at that time is quieter than the others. So
Right.
when the tubes come in the building, they go through those noise jigs, and the quietest ones come in here in the mics
And when you
first.
change it out, can you change out any dual triode tube you want in there? Or?
I guess you got it good. 12AT, whatever. 12AT, 12AX. They'll both work.
So you can put a bugle boy in there.
Oh, yeah, you can do that
Be
stuff.
noisy,
That's
but
fine.
who cares?
So, it's a high impedance circuit, and there's some gain in it. And really, that most important parameter when you're buying a tube to go in this microphone is it a quiet one? Is it inherently a low noise tube?
Yeah.
So whatever you're buying on eBay, it may or may not be a low noise
And what's on the
tube.
back side? Oh, more parts.
Also more guts. So there it is, all hand assembled,
Oh,
made in the USA.
and the capsule in there is
This is the guts for the Manley Reference cardioid mic, the black and red one. This is our most popular mic. This is a Chinese capsule, and it's been the same capsule since 1990 when we first started making this mic. It's a Neumann style capsule with the center fix there, and it's one side active. That's a dead side of the capsule there. And there it is. It's not a very exotic capsule compared to the Reference Gold capsule, but it also isn't as expensive too. So you see.
And
the
what
price
does this sell
difference.
for?
Retails at $3,000 US.
Oh.
Yeah, and then at $5,500, that really explains the capsule difference between the Manley Reference cardioid mic and the Reference
I like
Gold.
that.
That's a AKG CK12 type of capsule. It's edge tensioned like a snare drum. It's two-sided, both active, and you have to build it so the two sides match. The capsule is made by David Josephson in Northern California, and he also makes a capsule for our Manley Reference silver microphone, which is another type of capsule.
And is that company's specialty? You making microphone capsules, or they make other transducer type products?
Nope, just capsules, and
For
they
microphones.
make completed microphones as
Oh.
well. And David Josephson's a real scientist with microphones, and we've been working with him since 1990 on these. He's been making this for us since 1990.
Beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of famous records have been recorded on these. David Bowie was a Manley Gold mic customer. Etta James was a Reference cardioid mic customer. Lou Reed and Laurie Anderson both have Manley Gold mics.
Well,
And they had their first date at AES in New York City at my booth.
Who did?
Laurie Anderson and Lou Reed.
Oh,
That's where they met up,
Oh.
and they started dating after that because they both wanted to check out these Manly Gold mics.
Oh, that's a great story.
It's so cool.
It is.
Yeah, she wrote about it in his tribute that she wrote after he passed
Oh,
away.
that's great.
It's kind of cool. I'm fairly proud of that.
And you-
That's the power supply.
Power supply,
That's it.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I meant.
So the vacuum tubes have to have their high voltage and their heater voltage, and phantom voltage is 48 volts, and that's suitable for FET mics, but not for vacuum tubes. We need more volts than that.
Oh, and there's your list of people who have used
There's some famous people. Yep.
Pearl Jam. The reference gold: Bowie, Freddie Mercury, Herbie Hancock, Lou Reed, Shania Twain, Jeff Bridges. Yeah,
I've heard a couple of those people.
most of them, but not all of them. I don't know some of them.
It's pretty cool.
It's very cool.
It's cool what that
And
does.
what would you use that thing for in a studio? The mic made.
This guy?
Yeah.
What you would do if you didn't have a giant recording console where you could pull up different mics on different faders,
Right.
you would plug in up to 4 different microphones, and then you can also plug in up to 4 different microphone preamps. So like maybe you have a Manley and a Neve and a
Oh, I see.
something or another. And
But
then
you can't
can,
mix on it. You can't adjust the volume, can you?
You
Of each-
can. You can level match your input choices, and then you can start auditioning. Like, okay,
Oh.
you could say, "Hey, singer, start singing there, sing on that mic," and then, okay, do the, and you can select. Wow, I really like you on that thing.
So that's the purpose of it. It's
a
to help
switch
choose
box.
what you're.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, but it's really handy for
Oh, it saves a lot of time.
demonstrations at trade shows.
Yeah.
Like you can hear that mic through that preamp. It's a matrix and a selector.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool little box.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah, that's good.
Don't you?
Yeah. I think so.
Okay, we've now seen the entire laboratory,
Pretty much.
and I think what I should do now is take some stills.
Let's do it. Those are old stills I took from photography class.
This is where we started, right here,
Yeah.
with the awards, and it's Christmas.
They're
Wait, that one's collectible. You have no idea what that one's worth. No.
well, some of them are really cool, like their share, but none of them work.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the tour of Manly Labs in beautiful downtown Bovine, Chino, California. I've known Ivana for decades now, and I've always admired their products. She's also a great person, and she runs a great shop, as you can see, and has very loyal employees because she takes care of them. Of course, we shot this around Christmas time, purposely on a day when it was not that hectic, so that you could really get a good look at the place without us getting in the way of their business. So that is why it was not crazy in there today. But I hope you enjoyed the tour, and we'll see you again on the analogplanet.com YouTube channel with more great videos. Thanks for watching.